Men of Reddit, what's the male equivalent of needed money, had no marketable skills, so turned to prostitution? Went back to the family farm that I swore off in my 20s. Was an industrial electrician and lost my job. And unfortunately, me finding another job was going to require a massive relocation. Couldn't do it, as I had obligations where I was at. Ended up selling my house and getting a prefab house put on my family's farm, and went back to being a plowboy and a cowpuncher. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm not broke and homeless either. I'm almost 40 now, and I take care of my parents, and our relationship has never been better. Needed money, had no marketable skills, so joined the military. Not even trying to be controversial, but that's literally how they market to guys in poor areas. I stopped trying to think of the picture-perfect job for me. College was no bueno, and I got tired of loading trucks after 9 months. Joining after 9/11 was just my patriotic cover, when in reality, I didn't know what else to do. There's no rhyme or reason to why many of us joined. We are just dipshits that had nothing better to do. There was a time in my life where I was unemployed but had a wonderful girlfriend. She asked my plan if she got pregnant and I still had not found a job. The answer was the National Guard. It never came to that, but this is the reality. Had a pregnancy scare a few years ago while I was still in school. I visited the recruiting office and was mulling my options when she texted that she was not pregnant. Finished school. Hobosexual. Needed money, too lazy and or dumb to make their own, found a woman with her shit together, impregnated her, contributed the bare minimum as to not be left, found gainful employment impossible to achieve, and emotionally abused her to trap her into the relationship. My cousin, my sister-in-law, multiple friends.
They should do a study on that subset of men.
For me, it was prostitution. When I was a young and good-looking and broke 20-year-old, an older woman, what would later come to be known as a MILF, offered me money. She liked it so much she told her friends, and suddenly I had a clientele. Then I got a real job out of state, and that was that. Needed money, no marketable skills, so started an alpha male training seminar with my brother and got outed for trafficking after an argument with Greta. We sell our bodies too. Ours usually means menial manual labor that destroys your joints and muscles, leaving you basically crippled in your older years. My friend is a roofer. He's 40 and has back and knee problems of someone almost twice his age. Thank you. Just because I am not using my genitals doesn't mean I'm not getting fucked. We all exchange our limited time on this earth for cash. Not exactly on topic, but a friend of mine's father was an electrician for 30 to 40 years. Turns out he was allergic to copper and didn't realize until after he retired. He had problems with his hands the entire time. Military or manual labor, you are a tool of capitalism regardless of your gender or sex. True, in both cases, you get fucked in the ass. Hard labor at remote locations, like the oil industry, shipping, mining, remote construction jobs, and the like. Nowadays, much of it is skilled labor, but there are still jobs that only really require that you're able to work long hours and live out of a tiny dormitory away from civilization for weeks or months at a time. This is what I'd say. The military can fall under this as well. I've seen a lot of people talk about doing this remote labor, making bank and saving it away. But for every one of those, I feel like there are 10 plus that are going back to remote work earlier than planned and ultimately have nothing to show for it. The year after I graduated high school, my best friend had a bright idea. Let's just show up in Alaska with no plan and no money and nothing but the clothes on our backs and try to get work in a salmon cannery and live in their bunkhouse and spend a few months working 12-hour days and come home with a chunk of cash. The insane thing is that it worked. First cannery we walked into was like, you speak English. That's a bonus. Not everyone who shows up does. You're hired. Can you start right this very second? Why isn't this job done yet? I fucked my landlady for 4 months in lieu of rent while her fiancé worked out of town. I also used to have a guy who lived one building down from me, a doctor, believe it or not, who'd pay me $120 to watch me jack off.
This career path only exists if you're a decently endowed hottie, though.
Okay, I'll bite. Did she proposition you, or how did that start? The fact that 99% of all deaths on the job occurring men. Men generally use their bodies for non-sexual physical labor. Remember that the ways women die working aren't recorded, or when they are, it isn't considered death on the job. But a lot of women die being trafficked, or even during legitimate prostitution. In Texas, there are two options when looking down the barrel of destitution: running to the recruiter office or running to the oil rigs. This is why the powers that be want a struggling population. When looking down the barrel of destitution, one must choose between looking down the barrels of enemy rifles or down barrels of oil, it seems. And both lead to injury, death, and/or a serious drug or alcohol addiction. But you get paid well for your sacrifice or service. When our work dried up temporarily, my whole crew started selling plasma. With the right blood type, they pay you extra for certain programs. We call ourselves professional hemogoblins. Did this throughout college, but it was something like $60 a week. The way you make it sound is they were paying out a living wage. Curious how much you got.
Sucks. Found out I have Factor V Leiden a couple years back and it totally ruined my plasma giving. I've been red flagged for life due to sticky blood. Damn it.
We called ourselves professional hemogoblins. That's fantastic. Had no marketable skills, so worked manual labor below a living wage till diabetes caught up to him because he couldn't afford insulin. Then he died of kidney failure. If I had a nickel for every person I knew with that story, I'd have 10 cents, which isn't a lot, but it's still a strange coincidence. It's almost like minimum wage should be raised and people should get the health care they need. Manual labor. I have been selling my body for a paycheck forever, and I feel every minute of it right now. Drug dealing or joining the military / I am a veteran. You can still do one while doing the other. The two are not mutually exclusive. I'm surprised that drug dealing is so far down the list, to be honest. So many people have used it as a way to make money with nothing. Plot twist, I dealt drugs while in the military. 2 out of 10, do not recommend. I made a joke to my friend the other week when I was hanging out at her place and she took off her socks when we went out into her backyard to enjoy the sunny day. And I said, "Getting the toes out for free in this economy?" And then she joked about selling her feet pics as long as I was the one who dealt with the people buying them. Now I'm sitting over here like, damn, should I take this seriously and we both start making some money off of this? One of the darkest days a man can possibly face. That slow walk into the pawn shop with the Xbox or PlayStation. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.